Hello, this is Jon Croft with Cultural Warfare with Jon Croft, and I am Jon Croft. And we have Rebecca here tonight. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. Did you enjoy our topics over at Media Moses Weekly?
Yes, I loved our conversation about David. I also thought it was awesome what you were saying about the cultural exodus, and I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm working towards it. It should be good. I'm working on the first episode now. Our first episode, as you know, right, is with Miss Eva. So she was our daughter's piano teacher.
That's right. She's an amazing piano teacher
She's
and pianist.
she's an amazing pianist. Yeah.
Friend. She's an amazing friend.
She's a great friend, and we hope it's going to turn out well. I hope she'll be proud of it as well. Not just us, but like it was difficult because that episode, everything didn't work out. And in fact, this was filmed like 2 years ago, something like that, a year and a half ago. And not like all the audio didn't come out. So
Dear.
I was having to kind of figure out what to do without all the audio. And also some of the video didn't work out well either. And in fact, I even was thinking for a while, this was just a wasted bit of footage, but no, it's not at all. In fact, I took another look at it maybe 6 months ago, and I was like, it was actually pretty decent. And I like didn't know what to do with it for like a year. I was calling it a promo,
Hmm.
and then I was working on this documentary idea, and I was like, well, I need to talk to artists, kind of like I did with Miss Eva before. And then I was like, oh yeah, I've got my first episode already. It doesn't need to be that long, because that was a lot of the reason I was thinking of dumping it was because I was hoping for this long interview, right? Like an hour and a half, something like that. And it just being interesting and stuff. A lot of the footage just wasn't working because I basically had a new crew I was working with. Then I realized I could do this documentary style, and all I need is like a 20-minute or so video.
And you realized you could edit it.
Thank you. Yes, I could edit it, of course. But like it is funny how profound just me going, oh, was to the whole thing. Like
Yeah,
this is actually fits together. I
nice.
didn't realize it did. In other words, I didn't understand the purpose for it before, and now I understand the purpose for it, right?
Yeah.
As Joseph says, Satan meant it for evil, but God meant it for good.
Yeah.
Even with your documentary projects, folks, it can be culled together into something that works.
Yep.
Cultural Exodus, it's going to be our new show, hopefully, on Media Moses. And we're hoping to even license it out, that it's a really professional documentary, so that it will be available on other places as well. Maybe Tubi, maybe some other places. We're hoping to put it out there. And it'll be documentary interviews about culture. So more will come out about that soon. And I'll let you know, of course, any additional progress I make in the near future. I've got interviews planned coming up now, one in South Carolina, one in Texas, actually two in Texas, and an additional one hopefully up in Michigan. So, because I plan to be up at Realm Makers this year, late July, they've got a Realm Makers, and I plan to be there. I hope to interview some Christian spec fic authors. It'll
Whoa.
be awesome. If C.S. Lewis was going to be there, I'd chase him down with a microphone. Great. But he's not around now. We love him though, including George McDonald. I'd be like, George, I have questions. So yes, I hope that will be also just as good as this first interview with Miss Eva. We'll see how that works out. It's probably going to be about 25 minutes, something like that. I need to get her music because the music recording we did do of hers was blown out, overmodulated. So yes, we'll see what we can do. On to our main topic, which is Hollywood listening? And I get this title actually from an article, and let's see if I can find it here on World. Sound journalism grounded in facts and biblical truth. That's what I like to hear. Is Hollywood listening right here? Trending. Ticket sales are telling a story the film industry needs to hear. This is from back in May, but I kept an I kept an eye on it. Eventually decided I wanted to talk about it because it tells a story that we have told here many times and other people have said, but I'm glad that a lot more Christian culture people are getting it. So let's read some of this article. This is by, like I said, World and Colin Garbarino. Um, so let's read. The film industry adopted a new motto last year: survive until 25. Like they're just trying to survive over there. Hollywood never got back on its feet after it lost a year's worth of revenue to pandemic lockdowns. Then in 2023, both the Writers Guild of America and the Actors Union SAG-AFTRA went on strike, bringing work to a halt for almost 7 months. Numerous projects were delayed, putting 2024's slate of movies in jeopardy. By the way, I bet that's a lot more than 7 months because a lot of projects cannot start up again um, immediately. That's probably another year. In addition, after the strikes, a lot of people lost jobs. They might have projects still in the works, but that doesn't mean you're on board anymore. Anyway, I'm adding my own 2 cents in here. Back to the writing here, to the story. Putting 2024's slate of movies in jeopardy. As expected, domestic box office revenue from the first quarter of 2024 was down 6% from 2023, but industry leaders had hope for 2025. The thinking went that once studios refilled their pipelines, audiences would return to theaters. But that didn't happen. With the arrival of 2025, cinema owners realized their survival looked more dubious than ever. In an interview in March, Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos noted that most forms of entertainment have bounced back since COVID. Broadway, sporting events, concerts, everything except movie going. I'm sure Netflix would know because they don't put anything in theaters. It's funny that people interview Netflix about theaters and cinema when they are completely even against the theater business model. Anyway, like Netflix is the biggest destroyer of Hollywood cinema because they're big and they keep saying, I don't need theaters. We just don't like theaters. You know how many dollars they're leaving on the table because they hate theaters? Oh, people don't even get it. Okay. Anyway, back to the story. He says everything except movie going came back. According to Sarandos, you've got to look at that and say, what's the consumer trying to tell you? I know what he's trying to tell us. Come to Netflix. For the first 3 months of 2025, the domestic box office continued to drop. Instead of seeing a revival of American cinema, revenue tanked, an astonishing 12% lower than the same period in 2024, and down 39% compared to 2019. So, what are consumers trying to tell the movie industry? We don't like you? Sarandos believes Americans aren't interested in going to cinemas because they can more comfortably watch a movie at home for much less money. Ooh, not the best take. People often complain about the price of movie tickets. For example, a family of four might spend more than $50 to see a show, but the average ticket price in America actually hasn't risen much faster than inflation. Relatively speaking, cinema tickets cost more in the early 70s than they do now. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's true, actually. But in the early 70s, entertainment options were much more limited, and households couldn't stream as many movies as they wanted for one monthly subscription fee. They couldn't stream any. Netflix has become a boogeyman to theater owners because the streaming giant siphons away erstwhile moviegoers, and it's notoriously averse to giving its films theatrical releases. Exactly. But the cinema chains place some of the blame with the studios. Well, of course they do. I wonder why that would be, which is the real problem, by the way. In a panel of this year's CinemaCon, Regal Cinema World CEO Eduardo Acuna complained that studios have trained would-be moviegoers to wait for films to arrive on streaming. Yep. Citing an industry survey, he said 1 in 3 people believe that a movie is free at home in less than 30 days. That perception isn't usually accurate, but the speed with which films move from the theater to streaming has accelerated in the last 5 years. Before the pandemic, the typical theatrical window for a feature film was 90 days, 3 months. After 90 days, a film might have found its way to a premium cable channel before the studio made it available for rental. And for big movies, it usually took more than a year to make it to Netflix. But COVID lockdowns gave studios the leverage to collapse those 90-day windows. And most of the major studios launched their own streaming services, rushing new films onto their platforms right away to boost subscriber numbers. Exclusive theatrical windows are now typically 45 days, sometimes as short as 2.5 weeks. I got news. Sometimes it's no time at all. No time at all. A lot of movies release day and date. That means both release at the same time. How many people do you think go to the theaters then when they can just get it on streaming? So, man, they used to call this, when I was brought up in filmmaking, this was called release windows. Why is nobody using this term here? Because release windows was actually on purpose. You actually wanted all these release windows. It was a good thing because you're monetizing it based upon kind of like the easy way to think about it is retail and wholesale. Okay, retail is when you get it at the nice box store, right? And it's an exclusive. You're first to see it. You're the first to buy it. It's a brand new debut. It's nice and minty and cherry, right? So you're getting it at the highest cost to be an early adopter of this new thing. And that's theaters, right? And so that's the initial release window. And then it goes less money, less money, less money, and greater, more ubiquitous distribution, right? It's less and less exclusive, right? And so that's what they used to call it. It's a release window. And they actually taught us as producers that you want good release windows that are in their proper place. And you have to do a marketing campaign for each release window so that you bring in the people who want to buy a DVD when it's time to release it to DVDs. Right? This was all early 2000s. Everybody was doing this. And so now I don't know why. It's like Hollywood has this collective memory loss for how movies used to be released, and they made a lot of money releasing movies this way. It's just simply a collapse of understanding about how movies are supposed to be released. And when they say, I know this is a lot of my commentary here, but when they say, oh, the studios have the leverage, that means they have an advantage, right? So this is not the proper word to use for the leverage that allowed them to release movies on streaming during COVID. Leverage is not the word. They had to release it on streaming because otherwise you wouldn't see it. In other words, they lost release windows. They just go straight to the ubiquitous, cheap product. Nobody has to spend more money and get the early special release windows, right? Everybody just gets the same slop on Netflix. All you have to do is pay however much the Netflix thing is, and you get it immediately. It's not very special. You just scroll. You don't even have to put on a clothes. You just wow, what an exciting event. Wow. You can even take your date out into your living room wearing pajamas. Wow, it's so special, isn't it? It's a debut special. You get to spend $5. Wow, it's a really valuable product. I hope you can sense my sarcasm here. It's they don't even know how to make things special in Hollywood anymore because it's not special. They're just saying, oh, it's not special anymore. So if we don't treat it like it's special, why, of course, you're supposed to still treat it like it's special. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't make any sense. Of course, none of us are going to treat it like it's special. And we're not going to pay any additional money because you're also not treating it like it's special. So when you don't treat when you put all these movies that cost millions of dollars to make in the dollar store shelf for a few bucks, why would I give you $15 for the theatrical release? I can just give you $2 or $3. But yeah, then you start losing out on the experience of cinema. You don't have the experiences, you don't even know what that is. And guess what? It is special. And guess what? People still will go to theaters today. If you make something special, right? And you make it feel special, they will pay $15. So, and I think that they even mentioned that in the rest of this article. Let me see. I don't remember, but let's go back to it. So, no more silly commentary from me. Here we go. Yes, the release windows got collapsed. Before the pandemic, they said the typical theatrical release window was 90 days. I think I read that already. Okay, yes. They say exclusive theatrical windows are now typically 45 days, sometimes 2 weeks. And like I said, sometimes no time at all. At the same panel, Peter Levinson, chairman of global distribution for NBC Universal, defended the new model because he doesn't like money. No, I'm sorry, that was me. Because it has made his studio more profitable, even though the increased profits come at the expense of theater owners. You see, they're not thinking of the health of the industry. They don't care about theater owners. And guess what? He's actually wrong. Oh, this is so silly. They think that if they don't release it in theaters, they'll make more money. This doesn't make any sense. So here's a quote. Family movies aren't just relatively clean, they also tend to have less of Hollywood's political slant. That's a good quote. As we will see, it'll be down here. While overall box office receipts have tanked, right? Certain kinds of movies are thriving. Despite its rocky start, 2024 didn't end as badly as analysts feared, finishing with box office revenues down only 3% from the previous year. But the thing that saved theater owners from disaster came as a bit of a surprise. Inside Out 2 was the biggest film of the year, ranking in almost 653 million. Pixar's hit wasn't the only family movie to shake things up. Three other PG-rated films also landed in the year's top five. Highest grossing, Wicked, Moana 2, and Despicable Me 4. Theaters used to appeal to couples on a date night, but increasingly families with kids looking for something they can enjoy together have become the most loyal moviegoers. But family movies aren't just relatively clean, they also tend to have less of Hollywood's political slant. People have moved marginally right and recognize how preachy most of cinema has become. And that's the problem. Notes Eric George, co-host of the Popcorn Theology podcast. He believes people want good writing that doesn't push an agenda. The trends in 2025 seem to bear out this assessment. Movies with PG-13 or R ratings are still struggling to draw crowds, and the politically toxic Disney's Snow White looks on track to become one of the biggest box office bombs of all time. On the other hand, the zany PG romp, a Minecraft movie, is on track to become one of 2025's biggest films. Consumers really seem to be telling the movie industry what they want. Is anyone in Hollywood listening? So I do wish he would say more here, that Colin would say more here, because he didn't provide evidence that that doing well in theaters will kind of quiet this person, Peter Levinson of NBC Universal, who thinks releasing less in theaters will make them more profitable. How is he going to know he couldn't have been more profitable if he had released more movies in theaters? How is he going to know that? Actually, the evidence shows that the studios who released good who had good theatrical releases made more money. So if NBC Universal had made some good theatrical releases, they would have actually been more profitable than they are now. So as he says, the even though the increased profits came at the expense of theater owners, and guess what? It also came at the expense of additional theater receipts he could have gotten. Because I'm sorry, but when you release a movie in theaters, it's not just the theater owners that make money, it's the studios. Does he not know this? So it's really silly. And you have to look at the numbers to see that actually, if you have some good theatrical releases, I mean, the blockbuster movie already proved this, blockbuster model already proved this, and Marvel already proved this. They made billions of dollars doing good theatrical releases. So our memory, our the collective memory in Hollywood appears to be as large as a gnat's or a mosquito's. I don't think they know what they're talking about. And I think that their streaming models tend to do badly. Netflix is the only streamer that really makes a profit. So, of course, it's easy for them to talk about how their model is the best, when actually it's not their model, it's their branding that set them on top. And they had been working on their branding for 15 years before they made a profit. And then all these other streamers followed suit, thinking that they could just put lightning in a bottle like Netflix and do the same thing. Well, that's just not how it works. So Netflix was an early adopter and they reaped the rewards of that. And these other guys did not. And this is the same thing that happens with most technology. A lot of the early adopters that keep at it appear to create monopolies in a way, right? It's like the personal computer. It's almost like Apple and Windows have stayed the leaders, right? Commodore kind of went away, didn't they? Dot-com boom. A lot of people like PayPal did well. A lot of the social media companies did well. A lot of the other ones didn't do so well. So it's not the model that makes you successful. It's not the streaming model, right? It's if you do well and you're an early adopter and your branding is good, you keep good, strong branding, you keep good products on the shelf, you're going to keep having that advantage over all the other competitors, right? So, I mean, look at social media. The guys on top are often not the best social media platforms. The other social media platforms are often better, but they don't have the profit share. The other guys have already sucked all the air out of the room. Facebook sucked all the air out of the room and Twitter. And so now you can't get a competitor to get a word in edgewise. And this is a similar thing with streaming, right? So streaming has just mostly been unsuccessful model. for most streaming platforms. And so don't think that you can just create a streamer and make any money at all just because you've got your own streaming service. That's not how it works. And actually, theatrical can be quite successful if you make a good movie. Just make a good movie. Angel Studios has been proving this. They're like trying to make good movies for an underserved audience. What does that mean, underserved audience? That means Hollywood is not serving them, right? Most of the studios are not considering or serving them at all. What do you think that means? That means they're leaving money on the table. There's an audience out there that would be perfectly willing to go to theaters and plop down 20 bucks, but the studios go, I don't care about those people. That's literally what's happening. So, and like I said, Angel has proved that. Sound of Freedom did quite well in 2023, right? It was a runaway hit. That was because of theatrical. That wasn't because of streaming or some other model. So, and that was 2023. That was not long after COVID. These ideas are kind of silly. They're not really checking the numbers very well. But you know what this article is great about? First of all, they're showing some of the opinions in Hollywood. Sure. They're saying that the genre of family movies are doing quite well. They're still making quite enough money in theatrical if what? You just get the right content. If you just put out the right content for people, they will throw down money. So this is the money, this literal money. Like there's how this works is there's a certain percentage of the population who will go to theaters and will plunk down money, right? So let's just say that's 5% of the entire population, right? In the US. That's very conservative. It's probably more like 12%, something like that. But let's just say it's 5%, right? Well, they've been watching movies, let's say for 20 years, and they're used to a certain kind of product in theaters. These are the kind of movies they will plunk down money for in theaters. And if you take that content away and you give them content that they're not interested in, what do you think is going to happen? Are they going to just go to theaters because it's there? No, of course not. You see, in a way, the medium doesn't matter as much to them, whether it's here or there. What do they want to see? They're not there to watch Netflix. They're there to watch content. They're not there to go to a theater and eat popcorn. They're there to watch content, right? So don't miss the message here. The message is people want to go to see a good story. That's why they're there. They're not there because of the Netflix branding. They're not there because it says Warner Brothers. They're not there because the popcorn's really warm. They're there because they want a great story. And when you stop providing great stories, they go somewhere else, right? And the medium doesn't matter as much. People can kind of do a theatrical experience in their home, really. But the truth is, people do, I think, want exclusive content, stuff that nobody can see, stuff that you can see early and talk about it. And theatrical still is, for the most part, a better experience. It's a bigger screen, it's a better sound system. And I enjoy it quite a bit. I don't mind paying the $15 for a really good movie, but I haven't seen that in a long time. I think it was King of Kings by Angel Studios I last saw. Or no, it was The Last Rodeo from Angel. I saw The Last Rodeo. That was actually pretty decent. And King of Kings was even better. And I did not regret whatsoever plunking down 15 bucks for those. That was great. And guess what? I don't subscribe to Netflix because their content is not my kind of content, right? So it's junky content. That's why we call it content, because it's junky. So it's not art. or good storytelling, least of all cinema. It doesn't belong in theaters. It's not good enough to be in theaters, right? So that's why I don't subscribe to Netflix. And I don't need to see a movie every night. I would like to see a good movie every now and then, right? And then I savor that experience. So this to me is what movie going used to be, and I think it still is for a lot of people. And if Hollywood would just make good content, they would get me back in the theaters. I'd be seeing a movie maybe every 2 weeks. Honest to goodness, I would be seeing more movies if I could, but I'm not interested in them now. I see trailers, I'm like, I've seen that before, right? There's all these sequels. I think they're boring. I think most of them are boring. So I'm not interested in the big branding stuff anymore either, like Marvel. I'm not interested in Lucasfilm stuff. I'm not interested in these kinds of overwrought, you know, stories that have been overdone over and over and over, franchised, sequelized, etc. It's like a disease Hollywood has, this franchise-itis disease or something. And it's not like Hollywood doesn't have new ideas. They have plenty of great screenwriters over there. They're just not allowed to put their stuff on the screen because Hollywood is risk averse. They only want certain kinds of stuff that they believe is going to be successful. Guess what? They're wrong. They need to put better, more original stuff out there with good storytelling. They need new directors who have a new vision and take some risks, right? I would say if you don't want risks, put it on the streaming content. You know, if you want to take risks, do cinema. Like put some great art on cinema. I want to see that stuff. It's new, it's interesting, it's creative, it's worthy of a big screen, right? And I will watch it. But if you just want safe, like what they're calling slop now, Hollywood slop, then yeah, by all means, um, do streaming. So that's my take. I hope that Hollywood learns their lesson. But if not, that's okay. They can leave the money on the table and we will take it. We can pick up where Hollywood left off. But if we also aren't listening, this opportunity will be lost to us as well. So that's how the culture crumbles. And where can people find you, Rebecca?
Um, People can find me. You can find me on Substack at Rebecca Croft on
Yay.
Substack, and you can also find me on YouTube at Rebecca Loves Jesus. And where
Yes.
can people follow you, Jon?
And people can find me also on Substack, mediamoses.substack.com. And of course, I'm on mediamoses.com. Our articles are on there. So, yes, we're on YouTube as Media Moses Weekly, as Cultural Warfare with Jon Croft, and as Cultural Exodus. Hope you guys have a great weekend.